Hello everybody. If you don't know who I am, I'm Gary Mills and this is my studio behind me. This is where I come up with all these lovely ideas and things that I enjoy doing, and hopefully those people that come to my workshops and my classes enjoy doing also. Unfortunately at the moment I can't do any classes, I can't do workshops physically with people, but I can do them here in my studio. So hopefully you're going to enjoy a series of videos that I'm going to make for different things, be it art, textiles, anything creative. I'll do little how-tos and show you how to get creative at home. Now today, for the first of the videos, we're going to do some mark making. And it's literally making marks. So you don't have to be a great artist. You just have to be engaged, actually. You just have to come along, put your either your laptop on, your iPlayer, or your phone, and you're going to go through a series of exercises to actually come up with something that's going to hopefully end up looking like this. Okay? So this is a series of little marks that you're then going to collage onto a piece of paper, and it could become something that you're going to photograph and put on your social media, or maybe it becomes a screensaver, or you might even put it in a clip frame or something like that and put it up in your house. Now you're going to say, oh well, I haven't got any paints, I've got no paints, I've got no ink, I've got no brushes, I've got nothing. But what I'm going to show you is you're going to find those things around your home. So don't worry, you just bear with me, and hopefully you're going to have a nice session, art session today. So I'll see you in a minute. So what you will need to get started, you will need to make some sort of ink or paint. Now what we're going to use is we're going to use something we find in the kitchen, and we're going to use coffee. So we're going to use just ordinary instant coffee. It doesn't matter what brand it is, but just instant coffee. You can use some tea bags. So these are Indian tea bags. So they're probably the strongest colour, so you get some nice colour out of those. So you can use those. And you'll need a little dish to make your ink or your paint up in. You'll need a shallow little dish like that. And put that to one side. The next thing you need is to go and find some things around the house to actually make some marks with. So you might have some of these things, not all of them, or you might have some other things as well. So what I've collected is, first of all, I found an old toilet roll. So we're going to have an old toilet roll. I've got a paintbrush, or a pastry brush more like, a spatula, an old comb, toothbrush, I've got some pasta, bottle top, scrunched up bit of old foil, some net bag, cocktail sticks, a cork, a feather I found out when I was walking the dog, a sponge scouring pad, and also I have got a pencil, and I'm more looking at the rubber on the end of the pencil rather than this end at the moment. So it's about the rubber to make marks with. So you'll need those things as well. You will need paper. So you could, if I can get it, there we are. So you could use paper out of the photocopier or from your printer at home. So your ordinary copy paper. But it'd be nice to use some recycled paper. So you could use some old envelopes that's maybe in the recycle bin, or things that have come through the letterbox. Some packaging paper. As long as the paper is a light colour rather than a dark colour, because the coffee will just disappear if you were using a darker coloured paper. So whites, creams and light greys work really well. The other thing that might work quite nice is some old book pages as well. So you might have an old abandoned book. This is an old maths book, and I've just torn a couple of pages out of there, and I'll make some marks on that also. The next lot of equipment you'll need is a ruler, or something that's got a straight edge to it, some scissors for cutting out, or if you have got a craft knife or a scalpel, you can use one of those, but you'll most likely have a pair of scissors and something straight to draw next to, or to make straight lines. A biro, that's for decorating. and a glue stick. But if you haven't got a glue stick, you can always resort to making some flour and water paste like we did when we were kids. So if you haven't got a glue stick or any type of glue, you can always mix up a little bit of flour with some water to make some glue as well. Right, let's get started. So I've mixed up 2 teaspoons of that coffee, heaped teaspoons, with maybe about another 2 teaspoons of hot water from the kettle, and really stirred it with a spoon until I got a really nice consistency with the coffee. And then I'm going to pour the coffee into my shallow dish, and that's going to be my ink. I've made myself a cup of coffee. No, not a cup of coffee. I've made myself a cup of tea. And I've squeezed the tea bag out, and so that's the end of the tea bag there, so I'm going to use that as well. I've got my paper here, and I've sort of like divided my paper up into sort of nice sort of A5-ish pieces, but it doesn't really matter, any size will do. And I'm probably going to, at the envelopes, I'm probably going to use the white side rather than the pattern side. The pattern side is very pretty, and you could use that for other things as well. So I've made a little collection of papers, and I've got all my bits of found objects to make marks with by the side of me. So let's get started. Really just lots of fun, and in fact, don't overthink it. Do not think I'm going to be drawing with this or anything. It's literally about making marks with the thing that you found. So for instance, if I take the cork and I dip the cork into the coffee, it's about just pressing the cork into the paper in a series of dots. And you can cover a whole page just with dots from your coffee. Do that. And then when you're happy with that and you've filled up this small little page of dots, then put that to one side to dry off. So put that over there to dry off. Put the cork down and use that again for something else. Let's use the feather. So on the feather, let's have another piece of paper. So with the feather, you might use just this piece of the feather here. So you want to just, and maybe you just move it across the paper, just like that, and just see what that does. Just have fun. Don't overthink that it's got to look like something, be something. Rhythmical lines work quite well. I'm making a little grid here. Or literally, you could just dip the feather in the coffee and just do one sweep across like that of the coffee across the page, and that's fine, and leave that like that. The other thing you can actually do with the feather is actually you could make much more of like a drawing implement. So if you take the feather with and the scissors and you just cut that end of that feather at an angle there, then just blunt off the end again, and then what you can do is you can dip the feather into the coffee and then actually make much more of a drawn line like an old feather quill pen. So you can actually make some really nice scratchy lines with that on there if you want to. And you can fill the whole page up with scratchy lines. The other thing I like to do, and actually the feather was doing it there, is actually let's make some flicking. So let's do some flicking with the toothbrush. So you can like flick with the toothbrush. It might be a good idea, like I'm wearing an apron, so you don't flick it all over yourself. And you might want to have some kitchen towel or something like that for accidents and things like that, especially if you're doing it with lots of young people that tend to get rather enthusiastic with what they're doing. So again, you can just do a series of like little flicks and splashes and things like that on that paper. What else have we got? So we could use the toilet roll as is like for something for printing. So again, let's go back to, let's use some of this grey paper here. So I'm just going to use some of that grey paper, put the toilet roll into the coffee mixture, and let's just see, we can do a series of circles, separate circles. We could do a series of interlinked circles like that. That looks quite nice and impressive. Linking one over the top of the other. See what sort of patterns you can form. Yeah, quite happy with the way that one's turned out. Put that to the side, that over there. What about the foil? Let's see how the foil turns out. Take another piece of paper here. Again, what you're looking at is just the scrunch side of the foil. So dip the foil into the coffee ink. shake off any excess and then see what sort of marks you can make with the coffee on top of the paper. Quite nice, quite right. Okay. Tea bag. What can we do with the tea bag? So the tea bag you could use actually just to stain the background of your papers. So instead of being stark white on the background, you could actually start to just stain, almost like age the background of the tea bag, of the paper with the tea bag. So rather than drawing with it or mark making with it, just stain the paper, and then I would leave that to dry and then go back to it and then make some marks on top of that. What else did we have? I know, the scouring pad. Let's have a go with the scouring pad. I might do some scouring pad marks on top of these papers, so printed paper. So on top of the book, let's see what we can get. Some marks going down like that. Okay, you've got the idea. So what you want to do is you want to actually fill up as many papers as you want with all different things that you found. You can do rhythmical lines, you can do haphazard little splatters and scratches, you could do dots, you could do circles, geometric shapes, and then just leave the whole thing to dry, and then we'll come back and then we'll start assembling our papers. Once you've done all your mark making, you then need to go back and let it all dry off. So you can dry it naturally, or you can dry it with a hairdryer. If it slightly wrinkles up, what I've done with these is just giving them a little bit of a press with just a warm iron just to get them flat again. So I did find some of the cheaper papers, like the paper from the printer, did sort of tend to curl up. So what you can do is just go a little press between another two pieces of paper, and it just flattens them all out. But I've done, as you can see, these are all sort of now all dried and ready to really to be cut out and things like that. So, and again, some of the things which I had done, which might be an idea, is I made some marks, let it dry, and I thought, well, I want to do some more to that. So I actually then printed some more like bits and pieces on top. So this one is actually the rubber on the end of the pencil. What else did I do? Again, I think I did that similar on there as well. I just felt it just needed a little bit more mark making done on it. So just because you've made some marks on it and it's dried, you think, I could add something on top of that, so you can layer up some of your printing techniques. Right, so the next thing is to do is you're going to then, what you want to do first of all is you're going to cut out some squares. You're going to cut out 9 squares, and you're going to cut a square from either a piece of card, or you can use some brown envelope or something you can draw around, so you can repeat the same size square 9 times. Now if I measure this was, if we look at centimetres, it is, what does that say? Is that 6? It should be about 6 centimetres by 6 centimetres, or if you're into inches, it's 2.5 inches by 2.5 inches. So 6 centimetres by 6 centimetres, or 2.5 inches by 2.5. Draw your lines and then cut that out. So you've got a little template really. So that just means that you can repeat the same size 9 times. Now, what you do is you select your papers. You won't necessarily need to use all of them for this first exercise, but what you do is you use your template, and then you just place it over the top of something that you think, well, that's quite interesting. I'm just going to place that over the top of that. I'm just going to get a pencil. Let me just go and get my pencil. And then you can actually then just draw around that square like that. So you can just about see it. So you're drawing around the square. If it's a bit wibbly wobbly lines, you can always just square up with your ruler again if you want to. And then either with a knife, scalpel, or a pair of scissors, you're then going to cut out your square. So that's your first square. And you're going to repeat that another 8 times. So you end up with 9 squares. I'll put those bits to the side for the minute. Okay, so here we are. So we're going to get your 9 squares. So I've got 9 squares already cut out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9. A nice clean sheet of paper to assemble my design out. Now 9 squares is because 9 squares works quite well in a grid. So you can start putting them all out. And I'm putting them out with just a tiny little gap in between, and you just place them down thinking about where ones might go. You might not necessarily have the same type of design next to each other. I'm going to move that one, I'm going to move that one up there, I'm going to put that one possibly there. I don't know why, I'm just naturally doing that. I'm going to move them down like that. Because when we assemble things on a sheet of paper, there's what's called a luxury border. Now, ideally, if this paper was a little bit wide, I'd have a bit more of a border down here. But we're going with what we've got. But I've got a deeper border up there than I have at the top. I've got to make sure that these are all nice and straight. You can use your ruler for doing that. And then you're going to stick them down once you're happy with it. So you can use a glue stick to stick them individually down, or you can use some flour and water paste. I've just used some processed self-raising flour or plain flour. The white flour is the best. I've put probably a good half teaspoon of salt in there as well to help preserve the glue, to stop it going a bit mouldy. If it gets damp, it will get mouldy onto your picture. And though that might enhance the picture, I don't know, but we don't necessarily want mould growing on our artwork. So you can use that. Obviously, you're not going to use a lot of it. You're just going to touch the back of your image and then stick it down in place. I used a little bit of warm water rather than cold or boiling water, and that just helps the consistency when you're mixing it together. So it was a dessert spoon of flour to probably about the same, again, a dessert spoon of warm water just to make the glue there. So I'm going to go away, I'm going to stick that all down, and I'm going to show you some other ideas as well. There you go. So that's all now stuck down and all in place. So what you can do now is you could put that in a clipper frame if you've got a spare one, or what I would probably do is actually use my iPad or my phone now, and I would take a photograph of it, and then I would cut and clip it, and I would then put it as a screensaver, or I could even just upload it onto my social media to say, hey, look how clever I've been doing very arty things today. I said I'd show you some other ideas. So that's the 9 squares. Again, working within a block in a square. Let me bring this one over. So this one is made up of the squares, but then I've subdivided the squares. So folded one of these up into 4, cut them out again. So there's 4 little squares. And then also I've done the length of 2 squares here. So I've done 2 little strips there as well. So again, I've put that in almost like in a grid shape again. Again, you could photograph it, you could frame it, put it in a clipper frame, whatever you want to do with it really. And lastly, the other thing, when you're feeling really, really much more confident, you could look at all the scraps, and I'll put it that way for you to see, all the little bits and pieces all over the table, torn edges, cut edges. You could think about assembling them in something quite creative. So I've put them together, just layering up one on top of the other, and then I've used a biro, and then I've actually just sort of like done dashes around squares. You could do little squiggles, you could do little dots, but as you become more confident, you're quite happy with what you're doing, have a go of actually then putting extra marks on top of your collaged marks, and then you can get something really quite nice. Again, you can frame it, you can put it take a photograph of it and use it as a screensaver, or even just upload it on social media. Right, so that was it. Thank you for watching, if you've managed to get to the end. Hopefully you'll enjoy doing this exercise, or you have enjoyed doing it as you've gone along. Please share this video with whoever you think might be interested. It's for children, it's for young adults, it's for adults, it's for everybody who just fancies having a little go at getting creative. So please share. Another thing you can do as well is, if you want to say thank you, you can buy me a coffee. So what you have to do is you go to www.buymeacoffee.com/Gary Mills Design. That's not with an S on the end, just design. And you can buy me literally a coffee, and I'd be very grateful. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll have to come up with another idea for in a couple of days' time to get you doing something else. Okay, see you later. Bye.